On our trip to Kazakhstan, I felt like we were in this true melting pot of different cultures. There were the native Kazakhs, the Russians, the Germans, the Uyghurs, and even more lived together in the Central Asian country. But there's one people group there that has become a major focus of ministry. In Uzunagash, Kazakhstan, we visited a hope center that was called the Church for All Nations. There, the Lord has equipped a ministry to focus on the local children. Uzunagash is a village about 45 minutes away from the country's biggest city, which is Almaty. Sergey Kadirluko serves as the pastor of the church. He described to us in a previous article and video that we did how God has revitalized the church since it peaked during the Soviet Union times. Sergey saw the need to serve the children of Uzunagash, and one Sunday 25 kids came to church, after a church having maybe 10 members in total. Sergey described watching them run around and play, and then all of a sudden many of them were getting sick. He checked, and it was because they hadn't been eating. One girl was getting most of her food from the ground at the bazaar, which is the market there. And after this, the church started to provide food and care for the children a little more deeply. We were noticing many of the kids who needed help were at Kurdish, Sergey said. The Kurdish people group is one without their own nation. The homeland of the Kurds is the Middle East, northwestern Iran, and southeastern Turkey, and the northern sections of Iraq and Syria. According to a BBC article, in the early 20th century, many Kurds began to consider the creation of a homeland referred to as Kurdistan. After World War I and the defeat of the Ottoman Empire, the victorious Western Allies made provision for the Kurdish state in the 1920 Treaty of Sevres. Such hopes were dashed 3 years later, however, with the Treaty of Lausanne, which set the boundaries of modern Turkey. It made no provision for a Kurdish state and left the Kurds with minority status in their respective countries. The Kurds represent a sizable minority in Kazakhstan, with around 50,000 citizens legally and potentially many more living undocumented. Sergey painted the picture of how many Kurds were living near Uzunagash and living in really rough ways. He said many families live in buildings that are 25 square meters for 5 or 6 whole families. Some don't have chairs or tables, and they just live all together. The situation for the Kurds in Kazakhstan, especially those undocumented, is a scary thing to contemplate. Sergey described the cycle of poverty that the Kurds in Uzunagash are in, and that often begins with no father in the picture. Kurdish families live generationally as clans all together, Sergey said. The young boys have only 2 options to make money: stealing or dealing drugs. The girls can only leave their territory until they turn 14. Kurdish girls live in fear of human trafficking as they get older. Because many in Uzunagash are illegally there, they are less likely to call the authorities. Sergey described the culture still operating where a young man has to take his wife. Girls often don't have a choice and are essentially kidnapped and forced to marry. Sergey continued to describe the cycle. He said many have 5 to 10 kids, and then the husband either gets killed or sent to prison, and it leaves the children to be raised with just their mother. Continual brokenness and poverty keep these kids from paths to healthy lifestyles and work they can be proud of. To break the cycle, the church began to teach welding and woodworking and furniture building to the young boys. And the girls are taught how to crochet bean bags, neck pillows, and more. Money you earn will always be better than money you steal, Sergey said. The church also operates as a Bible Mission Hope Center, meaning that when the children or families are in need, they can come and get help. Through serving the Kurdish children there, the church can show Christ to them. Many Kurds follow Islam, and over the last few years, the amount of Kurdish children coming to the church has dwindled a little bit. Sergey said a new mosque was built in Uzunagash, and they tell the Kurdish kids not to come for church. Some will still come for holidays and summer camps, but for now they're limited by the mosque. Sergey reiterated that the mosque was not actually providing help to the Kurdish kids, just trying to keep them away from Christians. Despite that opposition, God is doing some amazing work in the Kurdish community in Kazakhstan. Some have come to faith and are growing to maturity in Christ. Sergey told us of a guy named Bayran who wants to become the first Kurdish pastor in the area. He originally came just as a kid looking for food, and now he's burning for the Lord. This Hope Center could really use your prayer. Pray for Sergey and his wife Svetlana, that the Lord would continue to strengthen them for the ministry ahead and give them His vision, not their own. Pray for the children of Uzunagash, that God's hope would come to them, and pray for the church as they look to create some sports fields and new things there. The church in Uzunagash needs about $8,000 to make their new volleyball fields and to finish their banya, which is a sauna there. The church has a vision of a safe place for Kurdish children to come and play in the village, allowing them to share the gospel. If you'd like to help with this church, you can connect with us and you can help share the gospel in Kazakhstan, either by messaging us here or finding us on BibleMissionGlobal.org. Bible Mission is also working to translate the Bible into Kurdish. You can help the mission of getting Bibles to this people group in their native heart language. And if you want to do that, reach out to us here by these videos or again at BibleMissionGlobal.org for the next steps. Colossians 3:14 and 15 says, "And above all these put on love, which binds everything together in perfect harmony. And let the peace of Christ rule in your hearts, to which indeed you were called in one body, and be thankful."